Alright. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classic Non-Classics. This is episode number 2408, Doubleshot 2302. Now, with this we're discussing Thor Epic Collection, Volume 17, Immortal Flesh, which collects issues 401 to 418 along with the 14th annual. Now, next volume I've discussed before, this is still part of Tom DeFalco's really long run for the title. How long was it? Pretty lengthy. Now, mostly put basically in these issues, we have a lot of stuff happening here. In 401, we have Thor taking on Loki. And the very next issue, he takes on Spider-Man villain Quicksand. One of two times he takes on characters from Spider-Man. Yep. The 4-2 starts something that it's here for a lot of the issues, except for one. 4-1 and 4-8 don't have this. We have a backup feature. Yes, for the first time since 60s, Thor has got a backup feature. What backup feature is it? Tales of Asgard. Yep. Mostly puts like Thor's childhood or debuting some minor villains who may never show up again. Yep. Like in the case of 402, we have the first appearance of Gildema, who was a character from Norse mythology who originally was actually Sif but made a separate character, and basically Loki covers her hair and Thor replaced with golden hair. From 403 to 405, it's a three-parter dealing with a new executioner named Brute Brownhurst, who's here for a few issues and he's gone. Yeah, it's mostly put Tom DeFalco trying to do something with the executioner. Like, it's like he really wanted to use Scourge in these issues, but he couldn't because Walt Thomas killed him off during his run, so create a brand new executioner, but he's only here for a few issues. The Blacks would turn after this one. Then we have in 403, in the backup feature, debut of a character named Haken the Hunter. This was his second appearance. He actually made an appearance in issue 114 during the mystery, back in the 60s. You could say it's his first appearance, more like his first chronological appearance, mostly. Yeah, and after dealing with that for a few issues, then he also deals with Annihilus. Yes, Annihilus from the pages of Fantastic Four would appear in the pages of Thor. For reasons, per se. Yeah, and he's here for 2 issues. 404 and 405, though he also deals with the character Mongoose, which that leads to a storyline with the High Evolutionary. The backup feature this one just Thor team with new warriors taking on someone called Ulag. Yes, Ulag, the Grand Enchanter. Yeah, it's just basically Thor taking on a sorceress for a few issues. He's here from 404 to 406 and he's gone. Yeah. Yeah, then pretty much after basically these few issues here, then of course you go to Wundagore, where of course we return to the High Evolutionary. We also see in these issues return of Hercules, and in these issues we see Hercules take up the identity of Henry Cheese, his secret identity when he's not being Hercules, which is quite cool the fact he did that. Yeah, and then from 406 to I think like 408, I think it is. Though for some reason 407 and a later issue reuse the same cover. We have Thor swinging his hammer at something that goes into the living bioverse. Yeah, you basically think I was one of the Celestials. Tufro the Surveyor. A Celestial first appeared back in Turtles number 7. And prior to this issue, he last appeared in Silver Surfer number 10. Well, the current volume I'm discussing. Yep. And then we have Fighting Mongoose. And 408 is also the first time that Hercules became Henry Cheese. The backup feature just a Thor taking a couple rock trolls. In 409 and 410 is basically Doc Doom versus Thor. I'm like, not a bad idea. Though that leads to its tie-in for Acts of Vengeance. Yep. And then 411 is basically a very historic issue. Why is this issue historic, you might ask? Because the debut of the New Warriors. They make the debut at the end of the issue, helping out Thor take out the frickin' Juggernaut. Yep. It's an excellent 2-parter. I love it. And like, oh yeah, you guys are good potential heroes. Yep. They have Thor team with Doctor Strange for an issue. Yep. While dealing with Earth Force. I love the fact the cover itself is basically a minor nod to Journey to Mystery number 1. Yep, and then 414 takes on Yoke the Troll with a bunch of other supporting characters. And take on Bird Beast, Storm Giants. Yeah, more awesome stuff. And then we have Way of the Warrior, where Hogan of the Warriors take on this boy who wants to become something like Hogan's apprentice. One-shot character. And then we have Thor vs. Dark Dweller for a couple of issues. Yeah, just the original character. Yeah, I know this is basically like 407 and 417 have this, like, pretty much like, it's like Thor with the same positioning. It just basically, like, a little more closer. But it's a reference cover, but I love reference covers. We also see first appearance of the Red Celestial. Yes, and he only appears for 5 times. Mostly in this book. He last appears in issue of Thor 424. And finally, 418, it's Thor versus the Wrecking Crew again. Yep. Now, as for the Thor Annual, annual number 14. It is mostly put in Atlantis Attacks issue, where basically Thor teams the Avengers take on Set. Yep. That's just the opening story. Then he has Thor the Watcher. We have basically like a bunch of other characters. We have a Boat of the Brave story. Loki with his wife. Yes. Yeah, so, yeah, we have basically Loki's beautiful wife here in this issue. Yeah. She, of course, basically have been appearing occasionally in this book. It's nice to appear in this book, or she later appeared in the 19, and appeared sporadically. Her most recent appearance actually was an issue of More Voices Pride. Yep. And that's the Thor issues. Thor issues are amazing. I love every single issue. Tons Falco and Ron Randall do an excellent job with these issues. Oh, yes, they do. Come on. Thank you. Alright, next up we have is... We're talking about a series that I've talked about in Marvel Masterworks before. We have Marvel Masterworks The Defenders Volume 2. Now, this book can collect the issues of Defenders 7-16, Giant Size number 1, and Avengers 115, 118. The Avengers issues, not going to discuss those, and issues 7-11 of Defenders. The reason, the Avengers War. Yep, that's the reason why. This book covers time period of, well, August 1973 and wraps up in October of 1974. Yep. Yeah, so we're jumping straight after the Avengers War. Yeah, this is like right afterwards. Which, if anybody's ever read Avengers War, check it out. It is really, really good. Yeah, an excellent storyline. That issue 11 of Defenders is mostly put in epilogue. Issue 12 is it's basically Hulk, Valkyrie, and Doctor Strange of Defenders, because basically Namor is not in this issue. They take on Zemu. First time they fought him since Marvel feature number 3. Yep. Yeah, that was the last time they took him on. Zemu the Titan. Also Zemu the Hulk. Yep. And after this issue here, he, of course, next appears in the Hulk Annual. Yep. Which came out 3 years later. And next we have Giant Size Defenders number 1, which is mostly put exactly just basically Valkyrie being told the backstories of all the Defenders. That's mostly put exactly what the annual is there for. Yep. it's an excellent annual, and like if you're really curious about the backstories of the event of Defenders, basically like a little history for them, check the annual out. And then right after we have the Giants of Defenders, and we have issues 13 and 14. 13 and 14 is Defenders taking on the Squadron Sinister. Yep, a group of villains who last appeared in pages of Avengers. Yep. Yeah, this was their epic return. They appear in these 2 issues alone. We also debut of the character Nebulon, who's this weird creature who got killed off in a later annual for Avengers. Yeah. And here's the thing. After this 2-parter, he later pops up again in Defenders number 33 as a recurring character. Yep. And I'm also playing with Nighthawk, who was part of the Squadron. He left the team. And the Submariner is forced to become involved in these events. Now, he is also wearing a completely different attire in these issues. Yes. It was something that he was going to this book at the time, where he wore this very outfit. It's mostly put outfit with water so he can basically survive on land a lot longer. And he's here for 2 issues, and then basically he leaves in issue 14. You know, he comes back, don't worry about that. And of course, Squatch apparently killed off, but they'll come back. Excuse me, when? Well, they come back in Giants number 3. And then 15 and 16 is a really good 2-parter, which features the return of Charles Xavier, who last appeared back in Captain America number 175. Yeah, this is a two-part story where his debut of a character known as Alpha, the Ultimate Mutant. A character who appeared for this 2-parter, and then after this he does appear again in 2 issues of Quasar, an issue of X-Men, and X-Men Alpha number 1. That was his last appearance. It's just basically this mutant that was created by Magneto. And at the end of this 2-parter, and by the way, this 2-parter is basically important when Magneto pops up again in the pages of X-Men. Because after this 2-parter, the Brotherhood somewhat disband. They get turned into children by the Alpha. Magneto next appears in X-Men 104, which came out 3 years later. The Blob appeared in the issue of Champions, Mastermind, X-122, Lorelei, Champions, Unit Untouchable, all Champions as well. Yeah, but excellent 2-parter, and well, that's it. Now, mostly put in a way for these issues, for these in particular, which is not many issues, we have Lean Ween take over the writing here. Roy Thomas is not on the book anymore. Nope. The previous writer was Steve Eckhart. He took over from him. And Lee Wee is on here for a little while. Now, who was the writer of the Giants House Defenders book, you might ask? Well, that is basically Tony Spilla, Bill Everett, and Danny O'Neill. Artwork by Jim Starlin, Jack Kerr, Bill Everett, and Steve Ditko. Yep. Yeah. And we have Sal Bushman on the artwork. Gil Kane does the cover artwork, which is really good. So it's like we have a standalone issue, a giant-sized book, two two-parters. And that's what we're going to discuss here when it comes to this book. This book is fantastic. I love it. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Okay, so that's episode of it, and that's pretty much it for videos today. So stay tuned tomorrow for my review for Case Closed and more Comic Corners, and also Kamen Rider Black. We'll come back tomorrow. Okay, next video. Bye.